Hello and welcome to Inkscape for Teachers. One thing I've grappled with for some time is tessellations in Inkscape. Now sure, I've done some videos on just dragging and duplicating shape by shape and building them up, and that works well. But I've also looked at videos on YouTube and seen one that seemed to work using the clone tool, but when I tried it didn't work, and I was lacking in information. But I've been playing around with pattern fills as a way of doing tessellations, and that can be quite effective, but there are a few rules you've got to adhere to. So I'll show you. We'll start by deleting that, and let's start with the Polygon tool. And that's the last shape I was using, so if I Control Shift and drag out an octagon, doesn't matter what colour, but let's give it a bright blue this time. Now I want to sit it flat. Don't have to, but I'll drag a guide down and I'll snap it to the guide there, click it again and drag the centre to that corner. It's not snapping, so I'll snap rotation centres there and snap it and then drag, and it'll snap to the guide. Now I'm done with the guide, I'll drag it away. Okay, now I'll select Control D to duplicate and drag till it snaps. Yes, it is snapping. Make sure you've got the relevant snapping tools here, cusp mode and various things you can try. Drag around both of those, Control D and drag down to there. Once you've got something that you can base a rectangle on, you can stop, but I need the square in the middle there, so I'll just use the Bezier pen tool and drag around the perimeter of that square and close it when it turns red. Be careful, there we go. And let's make that perhaps a yellow shape. Now Control D and drag this up here till it snaps. Not snapping, so I'll turn on path snapping, and let's see if that does it. Yep. Click this one, Control D and drag down to its cusp modes and paths we're snapping there. Let's see. Let's drag around the. Oops, there's a guide. I didn't want another guide. Drag around those three, Control D and drag across to there, Control D and back to there. Now I've got the basis of a tessellation. Now what I might do is draw a rectangle for the rectangle tool and snap to the object centre, or the snap into the square's rotation centre, but that'll do. And drag down and snap to this one. And I've got a square that I'm going to use to clip the objects below. This method only works with clipping, because clipping actually clips halfway through the boundaries, and you need half boundaries because when they're tiled together they form a full boundary. But anyway, if they're all selected, we go to Object, Clip and Set, and there's our basic unit. You can see what I mean down here via the half boundary. See, there's the full boundary and here's the half boundary. And of course we don't want a boundary at all on that, because it'll have boundaries with the other sloping edges. Anyway, once you've done all that, actually might be easier to see without the dark blue, those boundaries, so shift click the octagons, perhaps change them to something a bit lighter, perhaps a light blue. Yeah, it's a bit easier to see the boundaries. Okay, now what colours you want you must set at this stage. But select everything and Alt-I turns it into a pattern. Now I just drag this off to the side here and drag a rectangle. Let's say we want to tessellate that area. Under, excuse me, fill and stroke, pattern fill, and it's put in the last one I was playing around with before, but if you click under patterns, the one in the top section, the last one, and there it is. I click on that, and I can zoom in. That's pretty accurate tessellation. Now what I can do is I can shrink that in, oops, Control to get the proportions, and still tessellate, so I can drag out that way. Now notice changing the proportions. If you don't want that, Control Z, click this icon so that it scales with the resizing. So now I can do that. Oops, not working. Control Z, let's try again. Or maybe proportional scaling, yep. Control Z, take that off. And yeah, proportional scaling works. Hold down Control as you drag from a corner. But if you drag sideways to change the shape, oh no, now it's working. Not sure what I was doing there. So you can tessellate any area you like, even in a circle or an ellipse, something like that. If we want to change that pattern to the pattern fill, you can do that, or yeah, the last one we did, and so on. So you can tessellate any shape quite nicely there. Just with this one, if I click on that and hit N for the node tool, you can see there's a cross, a circle and a square there. If I drag that, actually, yeah, I'm dragging the pattern there, so the rotation centre of the object. I meant these ones here. If I drag that, you see it drags the effect of the tessellation where it starts. So I can start it where I want. If I wanted to start with half diamonds in the top, I could perhaps do that. The square here, hold down Control, changes the scaling, so I can drag that right in to do something like that and get quite an effective tessellation. Again, back to the node tool. This is the rotation. Again, Control to do it in 15-degree increments and get some quite fascinating effects. So it's a very powerful way of producing a tessellation using a pattern fill. That just about completes this tutorial, so I'll leave it there. Any questions, feel free to contact me. I'll produce another video I think soon on the hexagon simple tessellation. Bye for now.